My name is Robert Santiago. I'm the backup interviewer.
My name is Moinina Cisse. I'm the lead interviewer, and we're here with Mr. Robert Beckman at Marquette University High School on May 7th, 2019 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Andre DeMoya is our cameraman. All right. When and where were you born?
I was born, when and where? I was born May 28th, 1953 in Highland Park, Illinois.
What was your earliest memory in Highland Park?
Earliest memory. Living in Deerfield, Illinois at 1050 Sheridan Avenue and working with my dad as an auto mechanic.
And my next question was, what did your parents do for a living? You kind of already touched on that.
My dad was an automotive mechanic. My mother was a cashier.
Where was she the cashier at?
Sunset Foods in Highland Park.
Is that still up or?
Still open.
Okay. Did you have any siblings growing up?
Yes, I had 3 brothers and 1 sister.
What was that? What was that like for you growing up with?
We were very close.
Were they older brothers?
Younger. I'm the oldest.
Okay. All right. Did you have any pets?
Yes. Plenty of dogs,
Okay.
guinea pigs, pet monkey.
You guys were kind of like a animal family.
Yes.
Okay. What were the names of those pets? Do you remember?
Dogs were King, Max, Boo Boo. The monkey I can't remember. And the guinea pigs. They didn't really have names.
What kind of dogs were they?
One was a toy collie, Sheltie. One was just a mixed breed. And one was a German Shepherd.
What were the names of your siblings?
My brothers were Ronnie, Mark, and John. And my sister was Judy.
Okay. You said you grew up in Highland Park, right?
Well, I was born in Highland Park, but we kind of moved around. When I was born, we lived in Northbrook. After I was born, then we moved to Wheeling, Illinois, then to Deerfield, Illinois.
Okay. So when did you move? Around what age? Like, did you guys move?
From Northbrook to Wheeling was around kindergarten, when I was in kindergarten. And then from Wheeling to Deerfield, I was in grade school. And that's where I finished high school at.
Okay. Can you go into like why a little bit more, like why you guys moved?
Needed a bigger house.
Big house, plenty of siblings, right?
Yeah.
All right. What did you do for fun when you were growing up?
When I was growing up,
Yeah. Like moving
Fun?
from house to house. Like what did you do for fun?
well, I didn't play much sports.
Okay.
And most of the time my fun was working. Whether newspapers or delivering eggs or working with my dad fixing cars, or probably cars was probably the best fun.
When did you like start with the cars? Around what age did you start helping your dad with the cars?
Probably around 13, 14 years old.
Okay. What about the newspapers and cashiers and stuff? Was that more high school? That we'll talk
Yeah.
about later? Okay. What grade school did you go to?
Grade school was Maplewood Elementary School.
Right. And is that still up?
It's gone.
Okay. And you went there all throughout middle school?
I went there till 6th grade.
Okay.
And then 6th grade I went to Deerfield Grammar School, which is also not there no more. Then 7th and 8th I went to Allen B. Shepherd, which is still there. And then I went to Deerfield High School.
All right. What was that like for you moving around from school to school?
That was fine.
Okay. It was easy for you to like adapt to new cultures and like make new friends.
Oh yeah.
And all that. Okay. As a kid in grade school, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a mechanic.
Okay, so you want to be you, just like your dad.
Yeah.
Okay. Were you guys a religious family growing up?
Up until high school, I was confirmation, baptized, up until high school, and then after high school, not that much.
Can you go into a little bit more like why that was?
just didn't feel I had time with it, I guess.
Where did you guys go for church?
Church.
Until high school.
Up until high school, it was Evangelical United Brethren Church.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that still up or is that closed?
that's still up.
Okay. All right. And did you guys go on like any family vacations or?
Yes, back in 1960, my dad and mom bought some property in central Wisconsin, and my dad built a cabin there, and that's where we spent most of our summers and some of our winters too.
All right. Is the cabin still down there? Like, you still own it?
The original cabin is not there. We still own the property, but there is when my mother finally retired up there, she put up a nice house up there, and that house and property is still there.
We're gonna move a little bit more into like high school now.
Okay.
That's all right. What high school did you attend?
Deerfield High School.
Okay. So did you have a choice on like where you wanted to go to high school or like?
No.
Okay, so your parents got just like forced you.
Yeah.
Okay. What was that like for you?
Deerfield High School was good.
Okay.
You know, my freshman, sophomore year, it was full day high school. Then junior and senior year, I only went there half a day
Why was it only half a day?
because I had all my credits done the first 2 years.
Okay. Did you participate in any clubs or activities?
No,
Any sports?
no.
What was your favorite class or subject?
History.
How was that?
I like history. Still like history today.
Okay. So, we talked a little bit about your first job. What was your first job in high school?
First job in high school,
Yeah.
McDonald's.
McDonald's. What did you do at McDonald's?
A little bit of everything. Cashier, cooked the burgers, cooked the fries, made the milkshakes.
What was that? Did you like the job? Or?
No,
Wow. Why didn't you like the job?
I didn't like that kind of work.
Okay. Were you making minimum wage or like?
Yes,
What was the minimum wage back then?
I think it was right around $3 an hour.
Were you comfortable with that? Getting
Back
that amount?
then, no.
No.
Even back then, I wasn't.
So did you stop working with your dad at that time? Like instead of being a mechanic?
I did it off and on, and part-time with him. He did a lot of side jobs, and that's when I worked with him at night, weekends, doing side jobs.
And then all through high school, did you work at McDonald's? And then
No.
mechanic? No.
I kind of quit the McDonald's, and then I was working a factory. When I finished high school at noon, I was working at a factory. We were making shelving.
Do you remember the name of the factory?
Her store display. Yeah,
I'm guessing that's not.
it's not there no more.
You said you were only doing like half days, like
Yes.
junior year, senior year. What did you do after? And what time did your day end? Your typical day end?
My day ended at noon at school, and then by 1 o'clock I was at her store display, and I worked there till probably 4 or 5 o'clock, and then after that I went to McDonald's till midnight, and then went home and got back up at 7 o'clock, go back to school again.
How did you get to school? Did you walk or did you take a bus?
At the beginning, bicycle.
Okay.
And then finally, I just got enough money to buy me a car.
All right.
Up for $3?
Yeah.
Growing up in Chicago, isn't it a little like kind of chilly outside
Yes.
to be biking?
Yes. Yes.
So what were your other siblings doing? Like, I know you worked at the factory and then came home. Like, they all have jobs at the factory? Or?
No.
No.
They really never got into any jobs until after I left for the military.
Just you, the oldest?
Yeah. My younger brother helped me a little bit with the newspapers and it's delivering the eggs, but he was sick all the time, so I ended up doing it most of myself. But he did help sometimes.
I don't know. What was you said your brother was sick?
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Well, there was one time, I don't know if you guys ever remember, but in Chicago, we had a real bad blizzard in 1967. It still holds the record for the most snowfall, which was 22 inches, I think, for Chicago. And I was delivering newspapers. My brother got sick with the flu, so we had the paper route split in half. He'd do half and I'd do half. Well, he got sick with the flu. We're in the middle of a 1967 blizzard, 22 inches of snow. I had to do both routes by myself, pulling a sled with the newspapers until my dad come pulling up in a four-wheel drive and says, "You're done." Put the sled in the back of the Jeep and took me home.
Who did you work for? Like when you were
Chicago Tribune.
Oh, okay. What was that like for you?
It was pretty good, especially around, we were like, come Christmas time, got a lot of tips.
Okay, still making minimum wage?
Still minimum wage.
Okay.
Did you get paid by how many papers you sold?
No.
Or the hour? No.
No days off, even in 22-inch snow?
Nope.
What was like the normal like route for you with the newspapers? Just like around the block? Or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
For continuing a little bit more with your high school career, what were like your plans after high school? Did you have like plans to go to college? Or like what did you originally plan on after high school when you graduated?
No plans for high school and no real big plans because back then when I got out of high school, we were still under a draft lottery because Vietnam was still going on. So after high school, my draft lottery number was 3. So I was either being drafted to go in the Army or enlist and go in something that I like to do. So I went to Waukegan, Illinois, and enlisted in the Air Force.
So for like people who don't understand what the draft number is, can you tell them? Can you like elaborate?
Yeah, the draft lottery is based on your birth date.
Okay.
So when it's like a, like bingo. Sometimes you see bingo where they turn in the numbers and stuff like that. Well, they do the same thing for the draft lottery, and then they put birthday dates out. And whatever birth date and year and matches up, you're either going to be ahead of the line or in the back of the line. Well, I got luck. I didn't get too lucky.
Can you like describe like where you were at and like how you felt when you heard your draft number being called?
I just said to myself, well, I'm going to have to go. I might as well go and get into something that I enjoy. And that's why I went up to Waukegan, talked to the recruiter for the Air Force, and signed up with the Air Force.
What military branch was your dad? You mentioned a little
My
bit.
dad was in the Army.
Okay, so would you say like he kind of inspired you a little bit?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, did he like tell you like stories about his time in the Army? Like what did you like remember specifically from him?
He said a lot of stories because he was in the Korean War, and he was drafted, and he told stories about how sitting in a foxhole in a mountainside in Korea, and Korea had very poisonous snakes. So he's sitting in a foxhole, and one of those snakes come crawling in, and he just said, "You can have the foxhole. I'm getting out."
What's a foxhole?
Foxhole it's like a bunker, where they sit in, where they shoot from. It's a hole in the ground.
How did he kind of like adjust to moving away to a whole different country to fight?
He handled it pretty good. It was moving away to another country was not the problem. Moving away to the country to know that you're sitting up on a hillside and somebody's coming out, either he's going to get them or they're going to get him.
What branch did you enroll in when you went to you said Air Force, right?
I went into the Air Force.
Okay. Why did you choose the Air Force?
Air Force I chose because of I couldn't get to where I wanted to be. I was a car mechanic with my dad. Airplanes is what I wanted.
All right. So the car mechanic thing kind of like
Yeah.
helped you out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. when did you first realize that, like, when you enroll, I'm not really familiar with, like, the enrollment process. So can you explain a little bit how that goes?
Well, you go to see the recruiter and tell them what you want. You want to go in the Air Force, you want to go to become a mechanic. Well, he schedules you to go to the military entrance processing station, which all your big cities have one. There's one here in Milwaukee, there's one in Chicago. And you go in that line, and you're in a line with a bunch of 18, 19-year-old guys, same age as me, and you're walking in the line at first through the medical side. So you're just with your t-shirt and boxer shorts on, going through this line for your physical and shots. And one thing with the shots is if everybody ever had one, you ever got a shot with the gun, you know what I'm talking about? They hurt.
Did you have to get different shots for
Yes.
different places?
Mm-hmm.
What were, like, some of those shots that you...
Yellow fever, typhoid. I think typhoid was probably the worst.
hurt the most?
Yes.
I'm guessing your parents were supportive.
Oh, yeah.
Of you, and
Well, they were supportive, but they didn't know I did it. I went to the recruiter on my own
so you told them
afterwards.
what was, like, their reaction to that?
They said, my dad says, well, you gotta go because you're gonna probably end up going anyways. Because when I got to my first duty station, my dad got a letter in the mail stating the Army says you gotta report to your basic training. And I asked my dad, says, what'd you do with the letter? Well, I sent it back to him and says, he's already over there. If you want him, you're gonna have to go over there and get him.
And your siblings, how did they take the news that you were...
They didn't say much of anything. Younger brother was kind of crying when I left, but he was only 7 years old when I left.
So what did your siblings, they went on to college, or?
No, none of them did.
Did any of them, like, follow in your footsteps and, like, enroll in, like, military branch? Or?
No.
Okay, so you and your dad only?
Me and my dad and my youngest son.
Okay. Do you recall your first days, like, what was basic training like for you?
Basic training was kind of hard. You know, the only time I remember, some of the stories I remember from basic training was one time I was shining my shoes for the next day and I was a little late. So as I was putting stuff away, the DI says, yelled out to me, says, Beckman, you're a little late going to bed. Get down and give me 50 before you get in the rack.
How was it with your squadron? Did they, in training, did they like cooperate? 'Cause I know sometimes like
We had
difficult.
one person in the squadron that kind of held us back. He wasn't keeping his bunk mate correctly. His locker was always a mess, and they tore it apart, and he still had all his cigarette butts in his pockets and garbage in his pockets. He wasn't cleaning up himself. So the squadron kind of had a little talk with him.
Do they rotate squadrons? 'Cause I know sometimes like, is it the troops that go to different ones? Like the worst ones ever get to put in other squadrons?
No.
Did that never happen?
Not, I think they do that today,
Yeah.
but they didn't do that back with me. They kept that guy until the end.
So you guys had bunkmates, you said?
Yeah, well, we're in an open bay barracks,
Okay.
and we're all together, so like 15, 20 of us.
Did you guys like try to, the one guy that was kind of a little bit different from you guys? How did you guys handle that? Did you guys like try to keep him in line?
We kind of had a lot of counseling sessions with them. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so more questions on the counseling sessions then. What was your typical day like in basic training? You just kind of get up,
Get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get cleaned up, get dressed, make your bed, go eat breakfast, and depending on the schedule for the day, we're either going out to do PT or we're going to some kind of training class.
was this your first time away from home?
Yes,
And how did you handle being away from home?
I was fine.
Okay, so you didn't really like write your parents.
Oh, I wrote them.
Okay.
Yes,
How
I wrote
often
them.
Did you write?
I wrote them weekly.
Okay, and they wrote back.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right. Did you? How did you kind of like get through boot camp? Well, basic training. Like, did it have to like take a little bit extra out of you to get through that?
Oh yeah, because I'm not. The biggest problem I had was I'm not a good runner. We did a lot of running, and it wasn't in tennis shoes. We ran in combat boots. And you're down there in San Antonio, Texas. It's a little hot.
Like, since so many people were getting drafted, did you feel like it was like overcrowded?
It was pretty crowded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, and is this like a set group of guys, or did you guys come in all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You guys came in all the time?
Mm-hmm.
How many people would you say dropped out?
Back then, I don't remember anybody back then dropping out compared to what I saw today. Because after I retired from the Air Force, I worked at Great Lakes Naval Training Center, which is the recruit training for the Navy, the whole Navy. And I worked for the Navy as a civilian after the Air Force. And I took care of recruit training. And I looked at what recruit training was like today with the Navy, compared it to me back then. They got it made. They don't have to do it. They don't run in combat boots. They're issued tennis shoes, which is a lot easier. And dropping out, I saw more of it dropping out today than I did in yesteryear.
How long did you stay in basic training?
7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Yeah.
So after basic training, what was the next step?
It's technical school.
Okay. And what did you study?
I study aircraft maintenance.
Okay. So kind of just like continuing.
Yes.
And all that. How long did you stay in technical school? 4 years.
It was a 13-week class, but I got out in 7 weeks. I fast-tracked.
Okay.
I passed all my courses.
So basically you're saying you're one of the smarter.
Yeah.
Okay, so throughout high school you graduated.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the technical school, then you kind of, what happened after that?
Then I was able to go home for 30 days. So I came back here to Deerfield to the family for 30 days, getting ready to go to my first duty station.
Was that the first time you've been home since you left for
Yes.
basic training?
Yes.
Okay, what was that like going back home?
It was good.
Was there like a welcome back party
No,
or no, nothing?
nothing.
Just kind of like like normal day?
The only thing that I remember was I had two vehicles back home. I had a 59 Thunderbird, which I gave to my sister. It was still running. She was still driving it. And I had a 44 Willys Jeep I gave to my brother. But when I came back from my first duty station, it wasn't running no more.
And we kind of didn't touch on this earlier, but what was your neighborhood like growing up before you left for,
It was a quiet residential neighborhood.
Was it still the same way after you came back?
Yes. The only time it really changed is when I retired from the military and came back to Deerfield. That's when it changed.
How so?
It very expensive to live there.
Okay, so did you guys move or stayed in the same neighborhood?
I moved to Grays Lake, Illinois,
Okay.
with my sons.
Where did your siblings all go then?
Grays Lake.
Okay, so you all just up-
Yes.
all right. After the 30 days, can you walk us through the process? What happened after that?
Well, I ended up being stationed in Korea, and in 1972, and I spent 13 months there. And during that time frame, it was considered the Second Korean War, because there was a lot of tension at the DMZ. They see a lot of tension in North Korea now, but it was not. It was worse back then.
You did you get to choose to go, or like were you? Like,
Well, actually, I volunteered to go to Vietnam,
okay.
but they sent me to Korea instead.
Okay. So how did you feel about being sent to Korea instead of?
I kind of was nice to see it. Listening to all my stories from my dad when he's here during the war. It was kind of nice to go there to see exactly what he was talking about.
Okay. And do you remember the day you were told, or was it like immediately after the 30 days that you went to Korea? Like
It was the day I graduated.
the day you graduated?
The day I graduated technical school, I had my orders to go to Korea.
Okay, so you got the 30-day. When did I'm kind of like a little bit confused
Oh.
on the 30 days.
Okay, I graduated tech school, had my orders, and they gave me 30 days vacation
Okay.
to go home and then go to Korea.
Okay. What was your last day like? With your family?
It went good.
No, like send off.
No,
It was kind of just like see you later.
yeah.
Okay. Take us through your trip to Korea. Like, were you nervous? Like, excited?
Not really. I got on board a plane in Chicago to San Francisco, then caught a military bus to Travis Air Force Base, and then Travis Air Force Base, I caught the military charter flight with a bunch of Army, Navy, Air Force. They're all going to Korea, and we flew to Osan Air Base, and they split us up. The people that were going to stay at Osan went over here. People were going to Kunsan, went over here to catch a bus to go down to Kunsan Air Base.
What was your first day like when you got there?
Just processing in and, give them all my orders and get my post office box number, get my barracks, my sleeping stuff, and where I was going to work, and met my supervisor and got scheduled for school because I had to go to school again because they had Phantom F4s there, and I had to go to school for that airplane.
So you had to go through another process.
Another process of schooling.
What was Osan Air Base compared to like, say, Kunsan?
Kyoto.
Were they different? They looked
Yes.
the same?
Osan was a lot more populated. Downtown was more Western style. Kunsan was 5 miles from the closest base, and it was on the coast of the Yellow Sea. It was country.
So
There was-
less crowded, and
yeah.
You say it's like more run down than the other one?
Yes.
Yeah. more run down.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to move over.
What did you think of Korea like when you first got there? Did you have any opinions on the place, or?
It was fun. I enjoyed it there. A lot of work though.
I mean, for us, a lot of people look at like volunteering to go into the Air Force. You described it as fun.
Yeah.
How was it fun?
Because the people you worked with on the flight line, you were like a brotherhood, a family. You all worked together, you all played together. And that's what was the best thing about it is if you had needed help with an airplane you're working on, they're going to be over there to help you. And at the same time, we worked hard, we played hard.
What were like some of the friendships are you still friends with some of those guys today? Or?
Not as many as I'd like to be. Today's world, electronic world with Facebook and all that stuff, I'm meeting those guys I haven't seen in 30, 40 years because of Facebook. Some of them are on there.
Did you write letters to your family?
Yes.
That was the only way to stay in touch back then.
Yes. Yeah, there was no. TV was, AFKN, Armed Forces Korean Network, which is military radio television service. And there was only one channel. And most of the TV shows were shows from the 50s and 60s.
What were some of those shows?
Mr. Rogers, I don't know if you ever heard of that one. Nope. Three Stooges. There's one I'm trying to remember. Mr. Ed. You ever heard of that one?
Which one of those was your favorite?
I didn't really have any favorites back then. I was just lucky to watch a little bit of American TV.
Where did you guys stay in barracks?
In barracks.
Basically the same thing as like how you were over here before you left.
Well, in school we had two-man rooms, or in basic it was open bay. School was, sorry about that. School was open bay too, and my first duty station was open bay too. It wasn't very nice living conditions. It was open bay. Everybody could see everybody. We used lockers to make little rooms, and living conditions weren't very nice.
Where was your first duty station?
Kunsan, Korea.
What was the food like?
For us, eating in the chow, it was American style food. It wasn't the best, but it was okay.
What were some of those foods that you guys got?
Breakfast was, I don't know if I'll just say it was called SOS, which is an omelet with chip beef gravy on top of it. That was probably the best thing to eat. And then other than that, we used to go to this Charlie Pad Chow Hall, and we had to eat out in the bunkers with the airplanes, so we called them bag nasties. And usually it'd usually be a hamburger or chili dog or some chicken and French fries and some rolls, and take that bag and go out in the bunker and eat and wait for your airplane to come back.
What's your favorite food that you got?
Huh?
Your favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yeah.
I think I like the chili dogs.
How's yours? So like, you're still in school, right? At this point, this two-man bunkers.
Yeah.
Okay. And then so, what happened after that? After school?
After school, I spent a lot of my time on the alert pad.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is an alert pad?
Alert pad is we have airplanes set up to be launched at a moment's notice. When the klaxon, the siren, like you hear out here when a tornado warning goes off, you hear that big loud klaxon. Well, that's what it sounds like when that horn goes off. We're running with the pilots, getting them in the airplane, starting the engines up, and taxi to the runway, and they're gone.
And are you helping them in the airplane, or are you just showing them where to go?
No, we're helping them get everything
Everything
started up, buttoned up, make sure they're strapped in, and then when they get the signal over the radio that it's time to go, we pull the chocks out and they're gone.
So were you was each individual in your class assigned to like a specific pilot or?
Specific airplane.
Okay, so basically the pilots just run out and go to. The pilots had their own specific airplanes too, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys were kind of like.
Yes.
How long were your days like sitting on that alert pad, or do you have shifts?
You were usually on alert pads 3 days on, maybe 4 days off.
And then when you had your days off, what did you do?
Just go back to the regular barracks and hook up with my friends and go downtown and party and
They let you go downtown, so you can leave the barracks anytime?
yeah.
Okay. And then what'd you do downtown besides partying?
That was mainly it.
Just partying?
That was the main thing back then. But today's world, the way it is today, back in 1972, most people wouldn't like Korea back then. They were very, back in 72, Korea was very, I don't know, I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of. It was very unclean. You know, they didn't have, most of the homes didn't have running water. inside the house. Most of them didn't have facilities, toilets in the house, and kitchen was the same way. There was no Western style kitchens back then. Heating systems was charcoal bricks that heated under the floor. Some of them heated water under the floor. Some of them it was just the heat going under the floor. And it was very dangerous back then.
Would you say your barracks were like?
Barracks weren't much better. And our barracks, all it was I'm sure you've seen 55-gallon drums. They were converted into a fuel oil heater, and it was in the middle of the barracks. No, like you got now, you got ventilation system where it's distributed throughout the whole building. Well, this fuel oil heater is in the middle of the barracks, and you know where the heat's gonna go, right there in the center. So if the guys are at the end, they froze, because Korea, very cold in the winter, very hot in the summer, and we didn't have no air conditioning.
So would you say that growing up in Chicago and it being very cold in Chicago kind of prepared you a little bit for the weather?
Oh, well, a little bit, yes.
So you were kind of like expecting?
Yes.
Okay. So did they warn you guys about, you know, the weather down there and stuff?
No.
So you guys were all kind of like surprised?
Yeah. You get there and they issue us these big parkas and snow pants, and I didn't bring those with me, but they called them Mickey Mouse boots. They're big snowpack boots, and that's what they issued us to try and tolerate the winter.
Yes. What was the bedding situation like? Thick blankets or no?
Wool blankets, but they're not very thick.
Okay, so do you remember a night you being very cold? Or
Oh yeah, every night.
what would you say was the worst night for you?
It probably was in February, and it probably was down to, with the wind chill factor coming off the lake, because Kunsan's right on the Yellow Sea, and that probably was down to about 35 below.
When you would go down to, well, first, when you said you were 3 days on for about 4 days off.
Yeah.
3 days on, does that mean like, what was your sleeping schedule like? Did you get a lot of sleep, or like, were you just like manning your station?
We're manning our station, and we're able to get some sleep, but it all depends on, there could be midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning, we're jumping out of the rack and that klaxon's going off.
So what would be a reason for the planes to take off?
If I'm trying to remember where it was. There was a up by Osan, which is close to the DMZ. They had a radar station up there that kind of watched the air up there and along the DMZ, and if they spotted anything coming across that shouldn't be coming across, the signal went down to the alert pad at Kunsan, and we were told to get them in the air.
So do you guys have any like air defenses there besides the planes?
Yes, the Army on the mountainside, just outside Kunsan, they had something that was air-to-air.
Did they ever get close? Like any enemy planes or foreign planes you didn't know of?
Yes,
They did.
real close.
Would you guys, besides the alert pad, what else happened? Like, was everyone panicking, or were you guys very situated because you planned for this?
The alert pad, we planned for that. It's, if it escalated anymore when they blew the horn, that everybody on the flight line that was not on the alert pad, if they had to start getting airplanes for the backup. There was a couple times that happened too.
You said we're gonna go into a little bit more about your days off. You said you'd go downtown party a little bit. Were
Yeah.
you kind of like welcomed by the people of Korea, or like did you kind of like feel like an outsider?
There was times you felt like an outsider. Sometimes, some of them, a lot of the older Korean people that remembered the war days from the 50s were welcoming the Americans. A lot of the younger ones didn't. And I think even today sometimes, I think the younger Koreans kind of resent us being there.
What were like some of the things things that you would say they did to like kind of like mess with you guys, or did they like kind of respect you in a way, even though some of them didn't like you? You said, did they like respect you? Or?
They most of respected us
Okay.
for the most part.
So you guys didn't have like specific instructions like don't take a drink from a Korean or whatever.
The only thing we were restricted from, there were certain areas in Kunsan City that was off limits to us. We need to stay away from there.
What areas were those?
There were areas that were reserved for the Koreans. It was their nightclub area, I should say. They told us to stay out of there.
Would like Korean soldiers go down there? Or
They can go down there.
would you say you ever, like, would you be worried about having conflict with, Korean soldiers and American soldiers being both downtown?
No,
No? They never
No.
that far over towards...
no. A lot of the Korean soldiers never went downtown very much. Most of them were always on guard duty back then because from the air base to the city, there were guard stations all along the road.
You mentioned back in basic training you had this, I don't want to call him a goofball,
Yeah,
but the guy who like never took care of his stuff.
yeah.
So in Korea, when you would go downtown, was there like a little goofball in the group that would like try and push things a little bit to the limit? Or?
Yeah. There were some guys that drank more than the others.
What was the limit that you guys could have to drinking?
There was really no limit.
No limit. I was just like party all night.
No. It was just like there was a story. I learned a little bit more time when my dad was over there. And they attacked up a mountainside. And when they got done with the mountain and went back to the rear echelon away from the battle, they had cases of beer waiting for them.
When you were down in Korea, did you feel any like pressure or stress from like being ready, being like expected to have everything ready and set, just in case things would pop off?
Oh yeah.
And what was that? What were those times like for you?
There was, just if I was downtown to make sure I was able to get back to the base in time. You never knew when something was going to happen.
And how did you guys get downtown?
On the base, they had what you call the PX, the Post Exchange. The Post Exchange is like your Walmart downtown here. Well, under the Post Exchange, they had a taxi service. And they drove old, what were they? 1969 Ford Falcons. And they took us downtown and brought us back. If we didn't take those, the Korean buses came on base, and we caught the bus. Sometimes the bus was a little cheaper than the taxi was.
You were allowed to take, so you weren't like banned from taking any Korean?
No.
Okay. Was there a time where like, your bus was like under attack? None of that?
No.
None of that? It was all smooth?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than like going downtown, what did you guys do to like entertain yourselves on the barracks?
Downtown?
No, other than going downtown, like while you were on the barracks.
Oh, in the barracks?
Anything to like entertain yourselves?
Yes. Every squadron had a tent that they had, and in that tent, they built their own little bar. And in that bar, we played cards a lot.
What were some of those card games that you guys played?
Mostly poker.
Did you win a lot or?
No.
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 All
I didn't play very often because I never won much.
right. Was there a lot of betting going on?
Oh, yeah.
Or or things being put on the line for betting? It was like odds.
Huh?
What was like? Did they bet money or like
Money.
Money. Okay. Did you do anything for like good luck while you were over there? Because I know some people have like good luck routines and stuff.
Good luck routines.
Or like what was like your daily routine? Like did you pray when you got up? Pray before you go to bed? Because you said you were like a little bit religious.
A little bit,
like,
yeah.
After high school, so like, did you pray before every meal or?
No, I didn't do much praying.
Did you ever feel like you were in danger in the airbase?
Sometimes.
Like what?
Sometimes when I'd hear on the news that up on the DMZ, they'd be shooting again at each other. And I said, uh-oh.
So
Sometimes it made you nervous.
for those 13 months, you were on the airbase the whole time?
Yeah.
And did you have some friends that were up in the mountains? Like you said, like people were up in the mountains and waiting for like any enemy planes to come.
No, I didn't. In Korea, I didn't have no. All my friends that I hung out with was at the airbase. Nobody on the DMZ.
All right. And did you guys like play pranks on each other while at the barracks? At all?
Yeah.
Or some of those pranks?
I can't remember any. Can't remember any.
Did you have pranks played on you?
Yeah, all the time.
Did you keep like a journal or anything to like write down your feelings or thoughts on this day?
No.
Okay. So after your time in Korea, then what was that like after? What did you do after?
After Korea?
Yeah.
Well, I came back home for another 30-day vacation. And then I went to Westover, Massachusetts, New York, or Westover Air Base, Massachusetts. But I was only there for a couple of months because they were closing the base down.
What did you do down in Massachusetts?
I was there doing the phase docks. Phase docks is where you tear the airplane all the way down and major maintenance, looking for cracks in the wings and changing the brakes out and just anything major, the wings and stuff like that, because they were transferring the airplanes to another unit.
By then, would you say like you were pretty experienced with all the mechanics of how everything worked?
Oh, yeah.
Planes and everything. Did any like new planes ever come around that you had to learn, or anything that someone had to teach?
The newest airplane I had to come around with was F-16s. When the F-16 came in, the picture from the beginning till today, because they're still flying them today, that one you had to learn. And that one I learned the best. I really got to know that one inside and out.
So then, after Korea, like, did you have like a specific rank?
After Korea, I was 2 stripes.
2 stripes.
Yeah.
What would you say, like? So then, 1 stripe is the lowest.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. You said they were transferring the planes to another unit.
Yeah.
What unit?
They were going to the Air National Guard.
Okay. Quickly, your last day in Korea, what was that like for you?
It was good.
Any, like, I don't know if you guys cried or anything, any emotional kind of people?
Just a little hugging with some good friends that I had. They were going one way and I was going another way.
You guys had like, when you guys were first told you're going to Korea, did you guys have like a specific date that you were told that you were getting out of Korea? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So after Massachusetts, what did you do after that?
I went to Griffith, New York, to a different airplane, F-106s, so I had to learn another airplane all over again. And then I went after, I was there a short time too there. I was only there for a year, and then I went back overseas again.
So to clarify, the F-106s, these are all like bombing planes?
Fighters.
Oh, fighter planes, okay. You said you went back overseas after New York?
Yes.
Where did you go after?
Germany.
Germany. What was that like for you?
Germany was like Korea.
Where did you go? Where in Germany?
I was at Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
Okay. And how did you adjust kind of to the...
Germany was tension there too, but it was Western style. A lot of stuff you had in America, you had in Germany. But the best thing was in Germany was German restaurants. You ever gone to one? It's the best type restaurant to go to. Jaeger Schnitzel is probably one of the best things to eat.
What's a Jaeger?
Jaeger schnitzel is breaded veal with mushroom gravy sauce.
And I'm guessing, did you get a 30-day vacation period to like see your family again, or?
Yeah, prior to going to Germany.
Okay.
We had 30 days before.
Okay, and I'm guessing you were writing your family.
Yes.
Okay. Did you, some of the guys that were with you in Korea, did they follow you back to Germany, or?
No.
Okay.
There were two of us, besides myself, went to Westover, Massachusetts together. So 3 of us out of Korea went to Westover, Massachusetts, and then I went to New York after Massachusetts. They went to Florida.
Obviously, at this time, I'm guessing Germany had the wall
Yes,
between them, right? You were in West Germany?
West.
West Germany. What was that like? And would you say it was a little bit more dangerous than Korea, or
About the same.
about the same? Was there a time where you felt like, things were about to go off again?
Yes.
What was that like? It was basically the same thing as Korea.
Same thing as Korea.
You had to have your pilots ready.
Oh yeah, because I spent, just like Korea, I spent most of my time in Germany on the alert pad.
What was the weather like?
Germany wasn't as cold as Korea. Winters were okay, but it wasn't as cold as Korea. Had the snowfall, but not as cold. And the summer was not humid like Korea was.
Did you have the same 3 days on, 4 days off?
Yes.
Thing? Okay.
And did you, on your days off, did you go downtown?
No.
What did you do on your days off?
Well, then I had a family. I had my 2 sons and my first wife.
When were your 2 sons born?
My first son, well, I actually only had 1 son in Germany. My oldest son was born in Germany.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he's in the U.S. now? Or is
He's in the U.S.
Okay. What about your second son?
My second son was born on my second tour in Korea.
So on your days off, you didn't go downtown or anything? There wasn't like a specific hangout spot?
Well, the only thing we really did when we went downtown that I can remember all the time, because I'll never forget it, there's a place called well, no, there's 2 places. Kinsbach, Germany, there was a restaurant, German restaurant, and every chance we got, that's where we went on Friday night for dinner. And then there was another place, it was called Bad Dürkheim, Germany, and it was a wine place made out of a wine keg, a gigantic wine keg. It was nice to see that too. And then down in southern Germany, down by Munich, the armed forces in Europe had campgrounds down there.
Were the people, I would say, a little bit more accepting in Germany, or?
Yes.
You'd say? Okay. So, how did you guys communicate? Because obviously there's a language barrier between you and the...
Germany wasn't bad. Most Germans spoke English.
Okay. So, you guys were all good in the...
Yeah.
Okay.
And we made a couple trips too outside of Germany. But me and my oldest son, we went to Paris, and we went to Sweden, we went to Amsterdam.
Is that like family vacation?
Yeah.
Okay. Where did you guys like sightsee, like Eiffel Tower, or like what did you guys?
Yes. Saw the Eiffel Tower, saw the Arc de Triomphe, and saw the canals in Amsterdam.
How did your you said wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How did your wife and kids feel about because you can only see them on your off days.
Yeah.
How did they feel about them?
They were good. They was ready for my day off to come.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long were you in Germany for?
3 years.
3 years.
Where did your wife and kids stay?
I had a house on base,
Okay.
and they lived right on base.
Okay. So after 3 years in Germany, what did you do after that?
Came back to a place called Reese Air Force Base, Texas. And it's, you know where Lubbock, Texas is? That's where we were. And then that part of Texas, not very nice. Tornadoes, dust storms. Didn't snow very much, but it did snow. And then the next day, a dust storm came in and turned all the snow brown.
So I'm guessing you're implying that you prefer Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. And did your wife and kid move to Texas with you?
Yes.
After? Okay. And what happened after the Texas portion of your life?
After Texas, we went back to Korea.
Back to Korea. Okay.
Yeah.
And your wife and kids stayed, or did they go?
They went with us.
Okay.
They went with me.
Did you guys get a house down there also, or?
They're in Texas?
No, down in Korea.
In Korea, we actually lived in that time, that was in 1980. We lived downtown.
Okay. And your house in Germany, what was that like?
That was nice. That was a on-base, Western-style house. It was just like living here in the States.
So pretty much everybody in your squad, did they have their own house also?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Did like Korea change much when you went back?
No.
Was the
In 1980, it did not change much at all.
environment was still kind of the same?
Still same, living downtown in a Korean house. Most Americans, my son, they don't remember much living there, but the little bit they do remember, they had an experience, There was nothing Western style living, kitchen, living, sleeping. You slept on the floor on the mat, and it was that time it wasn't very nice.
So did your kids like growing up that way, or
I don't think they liked it because they don't remember too much of it.
So they never expressed,
No.
Okay. All right. So during your after Korea, then your second enrollment in Korea, you basically did the same thing with their.
Yes.
You never
Yep.
saw any
There was
no combat.
no.
Okay, so just aircraft.
Yeah.
And after your second enrollment in Korea, then
We came back to the States, went to Hill Air Force Base, Utah.
I'm guessing the people in Korea were still not, I don't want to say not as accepting, but were they a little bit more accepting?
A little more.
Time?
The second time was
Okay. And you came back where?
Hill Air Force Base, Utah.
And your family, I'm guessing, moved.
They moved with us.
Okay, so wherever you go, basically.
They went with us.
Okay. And what was Utah like?
Utah was nice. I lived on base there too. But,
Did you have your own house, or?
no. Lived on base, in base housing.
So how long were you in Utah?
In Utah, I was there 2 years.
What did you do after?
Went back to Korea for the third time.
Basically the same thing also?
Huh?
The same thing?
No, the third time in Korea was a little better because my wife and kids lived at Osan in base housing because my oldest son had to go to school. Kunsan didn't have no schools. The housing wasn't that good down there, but Osan, the housing was better. So they lived up there in base housing, and I commuted back and forth on the weekends when I could.
How old was your oldest son at this point?
He was 5 or 6.
Okay. And he was going to Korean school?
They had American school on base.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how long did you stay for the third?
1 year.
1 year, okay.
The second time we stayed 2 years.
2 years. Okay, and where did you guys move back? Where did you guys move to now after the third?
Florida.
Florida. That must have been nice.
Yeah.
Growing up in the cold and all that. Right?
Yeah.
So, what did you do in Florida?
Florida, I was a little higher in rank. I became a superintendent.
Superintendent. What did you do as a superintendent?
I was in charge of about 55 aircraft, the maintenance on 55 aircraft, and scheduling the maintenance, and I had 200 maintenance personnel that were under me.
Would your third time in Korea be your last deployment?
No.
No. You went back.
Well, I went to another country before that.
Where'd you go now?
I went to Japan.
How was Japan? How would you say Japan was different from Korea?
It was Western style. Japan was like Germany.
Okay, so it was a little bit the same.
Yeah,
How long did you stay in Japan?
2 years.
Basically, just aircrafts again.
Yeah,
Fixing up aircraft.
yeah.
You lived on base, or?
On base.
Okay, and your wife and kid?
They stayed in Florida.
Okay.
I went to Japan by myself.
How long did you stay there again?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. And you wrote back and forth, I'm guessing?
Yeah, and I went back home every 6 months.
Okay. And how long?
Huh?
How long did you stay home?
30 days.
2 days.
So did they tell you to go to Japan, or did you get to choose to go to
I chose.
Japan? Chose to go to Japan.
It was,
Oh, sorry.
I went there to try and get promoted.
What were the other choices, or if you had?
No, there was none.
No, it,
Yeah.
Try and get promoted to what rank?
E8.
Wow. What is E8?
E8 is 7 stripes.
What's the highest?
8 stripes.
8 stripes. So okay, so you were pretty close.
Yeah.
So
what were the benefits of being higher rank?
A little more money.
Oh, money, yeah.
yeah, that's always.
Yeah.
Did your wife and kid like choose to stay? Like, did they have a choice to come with you to Korea or, I mean, Japan?
Japan.
Yeah. Or did
They could have, but my kids were older at that time, and we had a house in Florida, and she was working. Thought I'd go to try and get promoted and come back and forth.
How old were your kids?
At that time, 12, 13, and 9, I think.
Do you have boys, girls,
Boys,
all boys?
all boys.
What are their names?
Martin and Brian.
And after the 2 years in Japan, well, during your 2 years in Japan, did you do basically the same thing? Was there like a downtown, like your hangouts?
I never went downtown.
What did you do?
I spent most of my time in the base gym.
Same 3 days on, 4 days off?
No, Japan, there was no alert facilities.
What was it like in Japan?
Japan was, I was the maintenance superintendent. The biggest thing that I remember in Japan was when I first got there, they had another guy as a superintendent, and they made me a flight chief, which was in charge of one section of about 30 maintenance guys. And the biggest problem they had was when I got there, they had one F-16 that every time the pilot took off, he'd get vibration in his rudder pedals, every time. They bring it back, and they couldn't fix it. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. So I told them, give me one person and myself, and we'll troubleshoot and get it fixed. So we started from the nose of the plane, going back, checking the flaps, checking the speed brakes, and got back to the rudder and saw that the rudder was always cocked to the right. It would never center. So we took the panels off the side, and there's beryllium copper bushings. And the only thing I could tell you about beryllium copper is if your machine beryllium copper, it gives off a gas that's very toxic. You have to be very careful with it. Those bearings were wore out. So I had to go with these tech rep engineers, they were civilian, to get the specs, send it down to Kadena, Okinawa, where the depot facility is. They made us the bushings, brought them back, we put them in, put the airplane back together again, no more problems.
Would you say people came to you for help? Yeah. Very experienced.
So it was kind of, I don't want to say chill, but
Yeah,
a little bit more relaxing.
yeah.
So after Japan, what did you do after that?
After Japan, I came back to Florida to be with them. And then we kind of went, me and my sons went our own way, and they went and lived with their grandmother, and I went back to Korea for the last time.
And how long did you guys How long were you in like Florida before you and your sons kind of?
5 years.
5 years. And what did you do for those 5 years?
Just I was a superintendent, and the only thing that stands out is I was in what you call aircraft maintenance unit, and that's where the superintendent, the flight chiefs that are in charge of different groups of people, and we're all in one unit. And I became a superintendent in that unit, but there was a unit down the way that kind of had troubles. You know, they could never get their sorties, their flight time in, and keep their airplanes fixed. Well, their commander selected me to come down and straighten them out. So within 2 months, I made this AMU with the oldest F-16s on top of the board.
Did you straighten them out?
Yes.
How did you straighten them out?
I just took control of the two expediters, which they were to help me. The two expediters are the ones that take care of 20 airplanes apiece. They're the ones who watch them when they fly, watch them when they get fixed, and they report to me, this is what we're doing to it. We should get it fixed in so many hours. I stayed on top of those guys and try and teach them to do it in a timely manner. And same with the crew chiefs, to schedule the airplanes, make sure they were taken care of right. And we did.
Were they like open to you, or did they like?
No, they were very open to me. And then we had a little wing party at the end after an exercise, and my commander and the chief mass sergeant that was over me, they took all the awards.
Finally a party.
Yeah.
How did you feel that they got?
Oh, they were so happy, and I was so happy that we just took all the awards, and they couldn't believe it because they never got something like that before. They were always in last place.
So you got no recognition?
Oh, yes.
For all you did?
I got 2 meritorious service medals. One from Florida, one from Japan.
What are the other?
Yeah.
This one here is meritorious service medals, and I got 2 of them. One for my work in Japan, one for my work in Florida. And then this one here is Air Force Combination Medal, and I had 4 of them. One from Germany, one from Korea, one from Texas, one from Utah. And then this one is the Air Force Achievement Medal I got for heroism. When I was in Florida, I was an expediter, and I was coming around in front of these airplanes, and one of my crew chiefs was fixing a throttle on one of the F-16s, and the canopy came down on his head. And I stopped the truck, called in an emergency, and got out to crank that canopy up and help the guy down until the ambulance came to take him away because it cracked his jaw. And I got that for heroism.
Where did that happen on base?
On base in Florida.
So after Florida, you went back to Korea, you said?
Yes,
For how long this time?
just a year.
It's a year. And better conditions? Or?
Oh yeah, and that was in '94, and Korea was starting to pick up, getting Western style.
Okay.
Yeah,
So people were a little bit more open to
Yeah.
accepting. Okay, so this was your last trip abroad?
yes. Last trip aboard, because after that trip, I came back to the States and retired.
Where did you go in the States?
I came back to,
Back to Florida? Or?
No, I came to Scott Air Force Base, Illinois. Did my paperwork to retire, And then from Scott Air Force Base, came back home to Deerfield.
Did you get any like benefits from that? Or
Yes,
after you retired?
yes.
What'd you get from that?
I got full medical benefits, retirement pay, medical, and I could shop on base at the, like I told you, the PX is like the Walmart that you have downtown, and like you have grocery stores like Woodman's or something off base. I shop at the base commissary. That's for groceries.
And before you retired, did you get like before and after you retired, did you get like any more medals or like any more honors?
After I retired?
Yeah.
The only thing I got after I retired is, like I told you, I worked as a civilian for the Navy at Great Lakes, and I got a lot of letter combinations when I worked for the Navy.
Were your parents still alive at this time?
My mother was.
Okay.
When I was in Japan, my father passed away.
How was that like for you? How did you handle?
Not very nice when you get a phone call from the Red Cross that your father's in the hospital and he doesn't look like he's going to make it, and you got to get on an emergency military flight heading back this way, and you don't know if you're going to make it home in time to actually talk to him, or is he going to be gone when you get here?
Did you end up making it back home in time?
No, he was gone by the time I came home.
What was that period like for you?
And it was not nice. It was, I didn't get to talk to him again, because any time I was overseas, he was the main one that used to write me letters, and then he was gone.
I mean, that's a tough time.
Yeah.
He kind of like inspired you to get into the military
Yeah.
a little bit. And, how was your mom, and other like your siblings dealing with the loss of your dad?
My mom had a hard time with it, especially with that summer house I told you up in central Wisconsin that the two of them bought and put a house up there and stuff. She couldn't bring herself to go up there anymore.
So she just stayed in Chicago.
Yeah, she stayed in Deerfield and worked, and finally I helped her out with keeping that place running up there, and she saw what I did to help her to keep it going, and she finally retired up there.
What about your siblings? How did they handle it?
They handled it okay.
And your kids were born at the time?
Yeah,
And did they have like any experience with their granddad?
yeah.
How did they take the news?
They were sad because, when we were in Utah, they came out to visit us, and we took a trip up to Yellowstone National Park. And they had a good time with them up there.
So another one of those like family vacations.
Yeah.
bonding experiences.
Yep.
So after you retired, you moved back to Illinois, or like
Yes.
you just settled in Illinois full time?
Yes.
All right. And how did you end up in Wisconsin?
I finally retired from the Navy base, and my wife now retired from her job with Honeywell, and we wanted to get to some peaceful area versus Illinois, and we moved to Kenosha. Plus, it's closer to my grandkids too.
How did you and your wife now meet?
And we met through a dating service.
And how would you say Kenosha is different from growing up in Illinois?
Kenosha is a lot quieter. Yeah.
Your grand.
Is there anything else you would like to tell us?
The only thing I was going to finish telling this, on my rest of this badge is for, I was considered a 9 level. When you're in aircraft maintenance, you start off as a 3 level, which is an apprentice. Then you go to a 5 level, which is a journeyman. And then you go to a 7 level, which is just a higher journeyman. And then you go to a 9 level, which is a superintendent. That's what that badge means. And then I never was in country, but I supported it. I'm considered a Vietnam War veteran. That's how I got that. And I'm Air Force retired. And this badge I got for my first tour in Korea because of the time frame I was in Korea the first time. They were given this Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal because we served in a time of hostile action.
Which one of those would you say like you're most proud of?
This one. The 2 times I got it. Because both times I got it because I took an aircraft maintenance unit that was not doing very well, and I pulled them back up to be number 1. The one in Florida and the one in Japan.
What are your kids do now?
Heating, air conditioning, mechanics.
It's funny that you didn't have heating.
Huh? Yeah.
You did anything like, what were like some positive things that you got out of like, I don't want to say the war experience, but like your time abroad and all that?
Well, in Germany, when I was abroad, I was a crew chief on an F-4 Phantom, and the thing I was proud of the best was, I hope I can explain this right. You had one, in your aircraft forms, you have a section that you could put delayed discrepancies, things that you can't fix right now because you've got to order parts or you got to wait for extended downtime to fix it, stuff like that. Well, my airplane in Germany didn't have any. It was no delayed discrepancies. I got everything fixed on it, so it was clean. And when you have an airplane that has no delayed discrepancies, usually you have to put symbols in there. Like if it's broke, you put a red X, means it's grounded, you can't fly it no more. Or if it's something that's minor, you can still fly, it could be either a diagonal or a dash. Well, mine was a black letter initial. So my initial went into that status to today because there was no delayed discrepancies. It was a 100% capable airplane.
And how's like your experience like in the Air Force? How's that like influenced you in your life today? Like in the decisions you make day to day?
My experience in the Air Force was,
Like how's that like shaped you to become the man that you are today?
it helped me to deal with things better sometimes. Sometimes I still, when I left the military and went into the civilian world, there was a lot of things, especially when I worked for the Navy, and there was a lot of civilians there, and there was a lot of guys that was military. There's a lot of things that we did in the military that kept us regimented. You know, you were in the military, the biggest thing is that I can't think of the word I'm saying. There were standards to be met. You know, they kept you that you need to follow certain rules and kept it to keep you in the right direction. Sometimes in the civilian world, I never see that sometimes, you know. But that's what it made me feel better today. Can do things better. Always wanted to, same thing when I was doing heating, air conditioning at the Navy base. A lot of guys used to get mad at me because I treated those buildings like they were an airplane. And the guys used to come and tell me, says, well, that thing's not going 10,000 feet. You don't have to torque it like it's gonna fly off. And that's how I did things. I treated that building like it was an airplane.
And has like your like opinion about war changed at all since like you experienced a little bit of it, or
Yeah,
has it remained the same?
it's something that you don't want to do. If they can find a way to become friends with nations without war, they need to do it.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add on that you didn't get a chance to say?
I can't think of nothing right now.
We want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us here today.
Okay.
And, we appreciate you and your wife making the trip out here.
Okay.